With the trade deadline quickly approaching, it's time for teams to decide whether they want to buy or sell. And today we're specifically going to be looking at the National League as the deadline approaches, as lots of teams have simply decided to sell and call it a season. And real quick before we get into the video, if you guys do enjoy this type of content, feel free to subscribe. I post plenty of baseball content on this channel, and I'm going to continue to do so going forward. Now let's get right into the video. Now, as I briefly mentioned, lots of teams in the National League seem to be sellers. In fact, at this point in the season, almost half of the National League teams are pretty much done for. 7 of the 15 National League teams are at least 8 games out of the final wildcard spot, which is going to leave us with a very interesting wildcard race down the stretch. As we stand today, the 3 division leaders in the National League are the Dodgers, Brewers, and Mets. And you also have the Braves, who are not too far behind the Mets in the NL East, but they're very far ahead in the wildcard race. Atlanta is currently 62-41 on the season, and they're 6.5 games of the 3rd place Philadelphia Phillies. So whichever team doesn't win the NL East, I think is easily going to make the postseason and really isn't going to be in the wildcard race. So considering we have 4 teams who are fighting for a division crown and 7 teams who are basically all but out at this point in the season, that leaves us with 4 teams. Those 4 teams are the Padres, Phillies, Cardinals, and the Giants. Now the Giants are an interesting team because they're currently 500 at 51-51, and they're only 4 games out of the 3rd wildcard spot. But there has been rumors floating around the league that the Giants are leaning towards selling and are considering moving some of their best players in Jock Peterson and Carlos Rodon. But if I were running the Giants, I would not be selling. With all the postseason success they've had over the past decade, pretty much starting out in the wildcard round, I think it's very surprising to see San Francisco potentially dealing and selling off their team at the deadline. So if San Francisco does decide to sell, that leaves us with 3 teams fighting for 2 playoff spots. That would leave us with the Padres, Phillies, and Cardinals. The Padres are 57-46 on the year, and they're currently sitting in the 2nd National League wildcard spot. The Phillies are 55-47, and they're a game above the Cardinals for the 3rd wildcard spot. So these 3 teams are only separated by 2.5 games. And I think it's just crazy that there could potentially be only 3 teams fighting for the 2 final wildcard spots in the National League over the past 2 months of the season. You just hate to see 7 teams in the National League pretty much eliminated by the start of August, but it looks like that's how things are going to play out. I don't see teams like the Marlins, Rockies, or D-backs buying and trying to compete for the final wildcard spot. It's just not going to happen. Now, if there was one team that I think is going to run away with a 2nd wildcard spot, I think it's going to be the Padres. They just picked up Josh Hader in a massive deal with the Brewers, where they sent Taylor Rogers over to Milwaukee. Hader is similar this season to Rogers in the sense that they both started out on fire but have slowed down a lot lately. But obviously Josh Hader is the one that you're going to have more hope in out of those 2 players. He has a much better track record, and really over the past couple of years he's been the best reliever in the game. So Hader is a huge pickup for San Diego, and with Fernando Tatis Jr. returning relatively soon, I think San Diego is going to get even better as the season goes on, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them run away with a 2nd wildcard spot. So that leaves us with the Phillies and Cardinals, who in my opinion are going to be battling it out over the final 2 months for the final wildcard spot. And I know I already mentioned this and I don't want to be too repetitive, but I think it's just so crazy that we're going to see 2, maybe 3 teams fighting it out for the final wildcard spot over the final 2 months of the season. We're so used to seeing 5, maybe even 6 teams be in the race until the final couple weeks. So while there's definitely going to be less competition for the wildcard spots in the National League, I think it's going to be just as exciting. I say that because I think the Cardinals and Phillies are just so evenly matched, and I really wouldn't be surprised to see it come down to the final couple days of the regular season. The Phillies are obviously a pretty solid team, as they've been playing very well without their best player in Bryce Harper. They have 2 legitimate aces in my opinion in Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, who have been pitching well all season long. So as well as Philadelphia has been playing lately, I think they're obviously going to get better once Bryce Harper gets back and is fully healthy. As for the Cardinals, they have offensive superstars in Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, and a very underrated star in my opinion in Tommy Edman. As for their starting rotation, Adam Wainwright and Miles Mikolas have been consistent all year long. They've been eating up innings and have been a big reason why St. Louis is still in the race. Also got to give a quick shout out to Ryan Helsley. The guy's come out of nowhere this year and has been one of the best relievers in the whole league. So this year's National League wildcard race is definitely different than we've seen in years past, considering almost half of the teams in the National League are already done. But like I said, I think it's going to be very interesting to see who winds up in the playoffs, and I think it's going to be very fun to watch. Let me know what you think of the National League wildcard race down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.